And that's number one. Recognize that it's not easy, that it is a commitment. And I think making that commitment to your kids is such an important thing that we need to do.
Yeah, you can't make the commitment to your kids until you make the commitment to yourself.
Looking for clarity and confidence when it comes to decision making for your business? You've come to the right place. You're now listening to the Atomic Business Coaching Podcast.
I'm Adam.
And I'm Tom.
Together, we are Atomic Business Coaching,
where our stories are your solutions.
Solution.
Always looking. No solutions today. No, of course, we got a ton of solutions. Are you kidding? I love being a solution driver. It's one of my favorite things to do. I love being presented with problems, but sometimes we create our own problems so that we can come up with new solutions, and we have to be aware of that. And
I told someone recently, be the solution, not the problem. They were a client. It was like, yeah, dropping problems on themselves. And it's like, come on, man. Come on. Be the solution, not the
problem. Right. That's like management training 101. Whenever I meet a new manager, I'm like, always remember this. Never be part of the problem. Be part of the solution, because we've got to drive solutions and find our way out. That's what we're here to do, is to solve problems.
But one of the biggest problems I've been seeing lately is kind of this, we call it harmony, right? We call it harmony, but most people know it as balance, and it's this work-life balance. And many of our clients have young families. They have kids that are in either high school or junior high or elementary. I have both. Tom has both, and many of our clients do as well. And it's trying to live this harmonious life. I'm busting my ass every single day to build this amazing business and serve my clients and do these things, versus I want to be a really good husband, and I want to be a really good dad, and I want to have fun for myself. So I've noticed a lot of this theme lately coming up with the parenting, right? And some of our clients they're beating themselves up because they feel like they're not being the parents they know they can be. And That's been a topic of discussion lately, which a lot of it leans into your world, Tom, but maybe we could talk about that today.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think it's a common struggle. There's so many people out there that want to be better and be available to their kids more than their own parents were. And I think there's an external pressure that becomes an internal pressure, being that incredible dad or mom and having to show up all the time for your kids. And I think one of the things is that really creates that extra burden is having the right conversation with your kids too, as they get older, and explaining that sometimes you're not going to be able to be there. But the goal is to be there as much as you can be there, right? That to show up as much as you can. And I was working with a client several months ago, and we talked about, as one of our mutual clients, and we talked about putting time into buckets, right? And making time blocks for your family, time blocks for your self-care, your business, and for everything else that you have to do, your partner, your spouse. And we try to keep to those 4 blocks of time. And I think when you really take your time seriously, and not everybody takes their time seriously. No one likes to live by a calendar. You and I have gotten really good at living by calendars. You've always lived by a calendar.
You're welcome.
Yeah, it's awesome, man. Thank you so much. It's made a big difference in my life, because I never was one to put everything on the calendar, but now I put everything on the calendar, from when I work out to when I'm having lunch to what project I'm working on, what client I'm meeting with, and when I'm spending time with my family, and putting those time blocks and thinking of it as the different, I guess, blocks or bins, or categories that you want to think about how you spend your time. That family time and being that dad and that husband is such an important part of who we are, because without our partners, without our spouses, you and I wouldn't be able to do half the things that we can do. And, we want to be there for our kids. And baseball season is a tough time of year, from April to really November now. The kids play baseball. That 6-7 months of my life is a very demanding part. And I'm trying to balance baseball games and seeing clients and building our business and working on all those things. And it's not easy. And that's number one. Recognize that it's not easy, that it is a commitment. And I think making that commitment to your kids is such an important thing that we need to do.
Yeah, you can't make the commitment to your kids until you make the commitment to yourself, right? And that's why I was happy to hear that you are using the calendar. And I have seen a huge evolution in what you're doing. And I'm not saying what I do is right. It just worked for me. You adopted it and it works for you now too. So everybody has their own system, right? But you have to have a system and you have to follow it. So if you're doing it for your kids or you're doing it for your spouse or you're doing it for the outside world, you're never going to do it. You're not going to have a desire to do it. It has to be for you. So first you got to ask yourself, do you really want to be a dad? Do you really want to be a mom? Is that really what you want to do? So you have to confront that. If you do, which I think most of you who have children do, then you have to recognize I'm committing to doing this. I use it on my calendar. And the second thing is I have my entire family as part of my team. Okay. Like Tom said, we couldn't do this without them. Well, your team has to be on board with what you're doing. They have to be your biggest cheerleaders and your biggest critics at the same time. Okay. So my kids are well aware that business supersedes many, many things. If we want to live the life that we live and have the freedom that we have, business is going to take precedent over many other things. So my daughter knows, and she's done this recently. She's like, Daddy, I need to schedule some time. And she knows, and she's like, Daddy, let's look at your calendar. And we look at the calendar and she says, I want to do something on this day at this time. And she looks, okay, you have something that day. What about that day? And she will sit and she will schedule it. Now, I am not advocating for you to get your kids as crazy as mine saying I need to schedule time. But they understand Daddy's time is allocated to many, many different places. But here's the most important part. When my kids schedule that time with me, or when my wife schedules a date night, or when we do a ball game, I am present in those moments. So when you block off time for whatever it is, you have to be there for that specific thing. You can't be worried about what happened previously. You can't be worried about what you're going to do next. You have to be in that moment. And that's truly whether I give my daughter 5-6 minutes at night, almost every night. And it's tuck-in time. And it's something silly. We play flippity dippity where I flip her on the bed and crazy where I have to fly her around. And I am there for that time. Sometimes it's 7:30. Sometimes it's 8:45. I've even had it where it's 10 o'clock at night because I had a meeting and I still went up and did it. But that moment I'm present. I'm not worried about anything else. And I'm there for her. So that's the most important thing. Whether you're giving your family 5 minutes or 5 days or a whole month, whatever it is, be there in that time and you will appreciate it that much more. They will appreciate it that much more. And you'll most likely be more productive in the next thing that you do because you feel such satisfaction from being really there for that entire 5 minutes.
Yeah, that's such an amazing point that you're making. Being present is the most important part of that, setting that time aside. Setting the time aside is step one, but being present is the most important thing because when we're not present, then it's not beneficial time. Then it becomes a chore and it becomes something that you no longer want to do or that you no longer desire to do because you're looking at it in a very different way. And I think being present in that moment is such a critical thing. Now, I have to say, I have to balance between, my son and my daughter. But my son, I definitely spend more time with my son because of his baseball activities and going to different games. And I'm usually the one driving to and from the games and with him the whole time. And my wife spends more time with my daughter. And you have to try to find out how to spend equal time as best as possible and give your kids that time. But if you can't give your kids equal time, it's the quality of the time that you give. It's being present. And I love that Lily schedules time with you. And I think that's so impressive. How old is she? She's in second grade. Yeah. I mean, come on. That's impressive, but
but she's on board.
Right.
She's on board. She understands.
Yeah. She values it.
For our family. This is our family. So this isn't separate, right?
Right.
This is exactly what we talk about. This is being harmonious.
Right.
They're all on it. But I'm all into her gymnastics and I'm all into my son's baseball tournament teams and I'm all into, what my wife's doing with her thing. It's like, you have to be engaged with each other. You have to be involved with each other. And, you said you struggle with time with your daughter versus your son and they don't have to be equal, right? They don't have to be equal in the amount of time or the frequency of time. As long as you feel and they feel like they're getting you, right? Mm-hmm. And I'll give you an example of what I had to do because I use guilt I'm very good at recognizing and utilizing guilt to myself.
Mm-hmm.
So the other day I brought my son, actually me and Tom went to a baseball game, and I brought my son to the game, and she's not that interested in baseball, but it was a whole fun day. So the day before this baseball game, I brought my daughter on a shopping spree. And she loves to go to Claire's and pick out, like, she got a best friend's necklace for her and her two other friends. She gave them out at school today, which was cool. And then she bought a stuffed animal and this and that. And then we went to the candy store. I forget the name of it. It's Sugar or something, like crazy candy store. And when we were there, first of all, she was in the Claire's and she kept looking at prices. Now, I didn't give her a budget because sometimes I'll give her a budget. Here's what I spent. I didn't give her one this time because I knew how much I was going to spend at Citi Field with my son. So I'm not going to give her that budget.
You can't give her that.
Yeah, I mean, I have to sell a kidney for that. But
isn't that the truth?
So I didn't give her a budget, but she's in there and she picked something up and it was a backpack, like this fuzzy backpack. And she looks at it and she looks at the price and it was like $40. And she looks at me and she's like, I'm not going to get this. I'm like, why? It's like, because you know what? It's a little bit more expensive and I want to at least get two things and I want to make sure we have enough money also for the candy store. I didn't give her a budget. I didn't think about that. But this is because in previous times I've had conversations with her on how a budget works and what she can spend and how to, you don't have to spend all the money just because you have it. So these little moments that I spend with her are teaching her lifelong lessons, but I'm also getting things back from that as well. For me to watch her make those decisions on her own it makes me so grateful for all the time my wife and I put into our kids. So it's rewarding to spend that, even if I literally spent maybe 15 minutes in one store and 15 minutes in the other store, and then we drove home. Meanwhile, I spent a whole 8-hour day with my son the next day. But I got so much out of that half an hour to an hour long with my daughter that, yeah, I watched the baseball game and had fun with my son, but I think I might have gotten more as a parent and out of like this love and like amazement of what she accomplished in that short amount of time than I did with my son. So again, I don't think it's the time, but that's how I deal with it. I use guilt and I'm like, hey, I'm going to do it for him. I'm going to do it for her too.
I think it's a great way to approach it. And I love what you said there. And it's such an incredible thing to see them learn and implement the things that you are putting in there that are taking and sticking. And what an important lesson she has learned already about just the value of money and being responsible. I mean, you're teaching responsibility, which is such a great thing. We got our kids those green light cards where they have their money and they manage their money on their own. And my son is a big saver. He's a very big saver. His initials are ATM, ironically. And I always said either he was gonna cost me a lot of money or he was gonna save a lot of money. Well, whenever I need cash, I go to my ATM, and that's my son because he always has plenty of cash around. But it's awesome because
an ATM works both ways. You can put money in or you can take money out.
That's true.
I like the way Andrew's doing it.
Yeah, Andrew's more about the withdrawal here and stocking it up. And then I look at Maddie's green light card and I'm like, oh, she's got like a tenth of what he's got on that card. And she has fun with it. And she understands the importance of being smart, and she'll move things around and be smart. And she even rounds up on her change because she recognizes that that's good to do and puts that money away. Every time she uses it, she is saving some money in return. So she's being smart about it. But your point about how much you got out of that 30 minutes with your daughter versus a whole 8 hours with your son. And you're right. It doesn't have to be equal. I think I said it because we all try to strive for that equality, but it's really about the quality of time that you're spending and what you're getting out of it, what both of you are getting out of it. And making the time for them is the most important thing that you can do. And like you said, whether it's at 6 minutes at night, that's huge. That 6 minutes is life changing. Even, like today, I went down to, my son wasn't feeling well. I went down to talk to him and, I said to him, everything good, bud? And he said, yeah. He said, I just feel a little off today. And I was like, okay. I said, I'm sure everything will be okay, and just took some time and we talked through some stuff. But it was just like that 5 minutes that I spent taking a break from doing my stuff and going down and talk to him. That was really important time for him. But my kids always know they're on Team Tom too. They love making fun of all of our TikToks and all of our stuff, and they love doing that stuff. But I think that they respect and value what we're trying to do too, and they can appreciate that. And that's really what gives me such, when my son says to me, Dad, that was a really good video, or my daughter says, Dad, you did a really good job there. To hear that back from your kids is such an amazing thing. And I don't know, I think we're in a very different day and age, and, it's different than our parents were parenting us, and we have such a different way of parenting our kids, but making the time for them is definitely critical.
It is critical, but there's the other side of this equation too. You have to have discipline.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And sometimes you got to tell them no. You got to say, listen, I cannot do this. I have to do X, Y, and Z. And that is, you can have the roof over your head. You can have the clothing you want, the education we're giving you, go on vacation. So there's times, I don't care that look, my wife always makes fun of me because she's like, Lily can do anything to you. And I'm like, yep. Mm-hmm. My daughter can ask me anything, and I'll say yes.
Yeah.
To a certain extent. My son can ask me, I'm like, no. My daughter, I'm like, yes, honey. Of course, right now,
Of course.
But you have to have the discipline that it can't always be, I'm going to give this time to my kids. And this is why we talk about harmony and not balance. Okay. Mm-hmm. Just like Tom was saying, sometimes he gives more time to one than the other. And just like the other day, I gave one more time, but I got more out of the other. Your work-life balance is never going to happen. There's no such thing as a scale where you're going to get this thing balanced out. It is about it having harmony, just like we've talked about in previous episodes. Like if you think of an orchestra and all the instruments play together to make this beautiful music. But guess what? The flute might only play for one bar, but that might be the most important critical part of that piece of music to transition to the next thing. So there's times that you have to put your foot down and say, no, I know you're young children. You might not completely get this, but I have to go do something else. When I am done with this, maybe I can come back and we can have that time. So it comes from both sides of this. It's not just giving. You have to take time away from them too. My son has a baseball game tonight, and I forget what time it starts, but it's over like 8:30 at night or something like that. And I have a meeting at 7:00 at night. Every other Monday, I have this mastermind that I run, and I have to be there. I'm the facilitator of this group. I can't not show up. So I have had to tell him that I am leaving the game early tonight. Completely understands. Does he want his dad there the whole game? Of course. But he understands now. The first time I had to do something like this, he was mortified, crying and temper tantrums, this and that. But they will get used to it.
Yeah.
Right? It'll build a little grit for them and resilience for them too, to understand they don't always get everything they want in life. Mm-hmm. But some of us are softies, and you got to be disciplined and say, no, this is business time.
Yeah. No, it's 100% right. They have to learn the boundary, and there's those hard times where you have to say, no, I cannot be there. I'm going to do my best, but there's probably more than likely I will not be able to make this one, but I will be at the next one because I've looked at my calendar. I've already blocked it, and I'm not going to miss that one. And I think that's the other piece of this, is being disciplined, is you have to be a really good planner, and you have to be able to put that time aside and know that when you have to say no, it goes much easier saying no when you have the plan of when the next time is, because kids will interpret no as never. And they'll be like, if you can't come now, you're never going to come, right? That's the tantrum that may come up, and that's the thing that may get in the way. So always have that option and that plan ready for the next time. And yeah, the better you can plan your schedule. And that's what I mean. That's what we mean by harmony, right? Is planning that schedule. If you have a standing meeting at a time, that's going to be a little bit more inflexible than when you have something that can be moved. And you move things around. You're still doing everything that you need to do. You're just switching it up. And that's what the harmony is. And when you look at life in those 4 buckets that we talk about on our schedules and on our blocks, we know that we just have to move some things around, and we know where we can move things around so that we can be where we need to be. But those ones that we have to say no, you say no. But as long as you have if you could find another spot, you find another spot and you make it all work. And that's what the harmony is really about.
Good, my friend.
Well, what another good one. I mean, I think it's so important because so many of our clients really struggle with this, and it causes them so much extra stress. And that's the other piece of this, is that we see the impact of this in that it's mostly stress and overwhelm, because it's another thing demanding your time. And as a business owner, when you feel overwhelmed and you're trying to do it all, that's why you need a team, but it's also why you need to do better planning and have your schedules and make sure that you are giving the time to the 4 things that you need to give the time to, and try to do it. Because when you feel that pressure because you're not planning well, it really becomes this masterful beast, and it really takes away and hurts your relationships. And we don't want you to have crippled relationships. We want you to have healthy relationships. That's part of why Adam and I have come together as a life coach and a business coach to really help people to balance and create that harmony, not balance it, but create that harmony in your life so that your relationships are healthy, so that you are healthy and you're doing everything you need for yourself, because that's what we do. We help people to see both the life side of things and the business side of things and bring those things together in a harmonious way. And when you do that, you can reignite your dreams. You can live the dreams that you want. And we want you to reignite your dreams and see that you can be in a place of thriving mode and not surviving. Because a lot of times when we don't make the time for things and that becomes a stress, we become a survivor. But when we're thriving, we have the time for that half hour to go shopping, or that 3 hours to go to a baseball game with our kid, or to show up at their game. It's really important that we recognize that there is a life element to everything that we do in our business. And that's why Adam and I are here to help you do that. So reignite your dreams by looking at both life and business and looking at them as one simple harmony together.
Yeah, so I'd wrap it up with, you can, with us, have your cake and eat it too. And most of the times you can't. Our entire business is built around helping people that want it all. You literally can have it all. It just takes time. It takes discipline. It takes systems. It takes understanding and awareness. You can do all of these things. That's what we're here to do. That's why we have this podcast. Hopefully some of these stories have been your solutions. And if you're looking for more, reach out to us. You can go to atomicbusinesscoaching.com. Again, that's atomicbusinesscoaching.com. You can see all the different programs that we offer and what we're up to. And hopefully you can reignite your dreams and thrive.